When was the first influenza vaccine developed? Hi, I'm Dr. Snodgrass. I'm a physician here at First Primary Care. A lot of you have probably heard about the Spanish flu that occurred in 1918, and it has surprisingly a lot of similarities to the coronavirus that is occurring today. So let's play a game and learn more about both of them. All right, let's do our first question. True or false, the 1918 pandemic dominated the news the same way the coronavirus dominates the news today? So this, I would say, is true and false. True because there was a war going on when this pandemic broke out, and many of the countries that were involved didn't want the other country that they were fighting to know that there was a pandemic going on in their country. And so they didn't talk about it in the public and the media. Later on, they had to talk about it because it was killing a lot of people. And some of the same arguments that we have today about wearing masks, wearing them in restaurants, taking them off to eat and then putting them back on, all of those arguments were covered in the media, as well as places of worship, schools, all of that was shut down for a time during the Spanish flu. Oddly enough, the Spanish flu got its name because countries were hiding that they had a pandemic occurring in their country. In Spain, during the war, the country was neutral, and so they didn't have to hide that there was a pandemic going on in their country. So initially people thought that the pandemic originated in Spain, when actually it did not. All right, let's do question 2. What was the average age of people in the United States and Canada who died during the 1918 influenza pandemic? The average age was actually 28 years old, which is very different than today's pandemic. The average age that people will die from infection with coronavirus is 65. And there's a lot of speculation on why this is the case. Remember, at this time we didn't have antibiotics and we didn't have ventilators to support people until their bodies could recover. All right, question number 3. When was the first influenza vaccine developed? The first influenza vaccine was in about 1935. Before they could develop a vaccine, they first had to discover the virus. And before the 1930s, the only thing that scientists could see under a microscope was a bacteria. They didn't even know viruses existed. So once they found the virus, then they studied it and they were able to find a receptor on the surface of the virus. It's actually the H receptor that binds to our cells so that virus can enter our cells. And they developed a vaccine so that our bodies would be able to recognize that H receptor and kind of attack it or lock into it so that the virus won't be able to replicate and infect our bodies and make us very sick. That's the end of our Spanish flu pandemic game, but that's not the end of our questions. Make sure you have a doctor to help you navigate during this time. You can visit healthcoveragereview.com, take a quick survey, and see if you qualify for better health care.